everybody, to the Cover 2 podcast. I'm Jared Smith.
And I'm Nenad.
And we've got a big show for you guys today. Obviously, as you can see, I'm in Lakers gear. Nick's in Clippers gear. There's a big game this past Sunday. It was a Clippers home game, but it really felt like more of a Lakers home game.
We really need to talk about that.
I had to throw that in there. The Lakers did win, got their first win against the Clippers this season, so we will dive into that. What that win means for the Lakers, what the loss means for the Clippers, and if it's really a rivalry or not. We'll get both of our opinions on that, and then later on in the show, we will talk about the coronavirus, the continued spread of the coronavirus, and what that means for not only individual teams, but leagues, the National Basketball Association, Major League Baseball, the NHL, and even the NFL. All of the major leagues are now, kind of dissecting what to do, whether they need to ban fans from coming to events and things that need to take place in order to make sure that teams and players are safe. So we'll get into that a little later on in the show, but we are going to start with the big matchup on Sunday.
Yes.
I'm excited because the Lakers finally got their first win of the season against the Clippers. They were 0-2 before that. It was a big weekend for the Lakers as well. On Friday, they went up against Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks. They beat them, I don't want to say handedly, but it was a very good win for the Lakers on Friday. And then to come back on Sunday against another very good quality team in the Clippers and to beat the Clippers was very good for the Lakers, not only in standings-wise, but I think for their psyche to say, okay, we can beat the best of the best in the NBA. Nick, your early and initial thoughts on the game?
Well, first of all, it was a great game, right? For some reason, these two teams just make it seem like it's the NBA Finals every single time they play. And there's a lot of Laker fans and Laker players that don't want to make it seem like they care about this game for some reason, even though there's a lot of evidence that would show otherwise. LeBron jumping on the floor for loose balls.
Right.
LeBron taking more charges than usual. LeBron, I could say more, but he seems to not want to make this a rivalry. It is, okay? And fans seem to go, well, we don't care about the Clippers, but then the minute they beat them, it's just I don't want to say the word, but it's certain kind of show on Twitter about, how the Clippers have no banners and all this stuff. It's really funny to see.
It's true. The Clippers don't have any banners.
Well, I know, but I said there's not a rivalry, at least this year.
It's not a rivalry.
I know, you're one of those people that said it's not a rivalry. One of the reasons I'm so excited about this is I love great sports matchups, and this is what this is. All kidding and kind of bias aside, I can't wait to watch this Lakers-Clippers series if it hopefully happens in the playoffs, and it probably will based on the trajectory of the two teams. Before this game came in, like you mentioned, the Lakers beat the Bucks. I couldn't even remember the last time they lost. The Clippers, I think, came into this game 9 or 10-0. Being fully healthy, so you couldn't have had a better matchup, going into this game. Both teams were fully healthy, and what ended up happening was LeBron took over the game. The Clippers didn't play very well, but LeBron in the end did what he's done so many times in the regular season and playoffs. He took over the game. So my initial thoughts before we kind of really dive into this game was that the Clippers didn't play their best game, and LeBron was extraordinary this weekend, and that's why the Lakers won. I don't necessarily think this means the Lakers are going to beat the Clippers in a series in the playoffs, but it definitely gave them a better chance, and it makes it so that this series was going to be even better than I originally expected.
Yeah, that's why in my initial thoughts, I said I think this was big for the Lakers' psyche, because I'm no doubt, I think the Clippers have the better all-around team than the Lakers do right now.
Yes.
Now, when LeBron James plays the way he does on Sunday, when Anthony Davis is the defensive monster that he is, and he can be the secondary scorer to LeBron James, yes, the Lakers are very tough to beat. But we're not just going to sit here, and even as a Lakers fan, I'm not going to discredit the Clippers. Yes, they didn't have their best game. Paul George still had 31 points. Kawhi Leonard still had 27. And Marcus Harrell, coming off the bench, had 20 points, and he was a beast, right? The Lakers didn't really have an answer for him. So in a 7-game series, you're right. The Clippers are going to be a problem for any team, regardless of who they're facing. But like I said, for the Lakers, you had to get a win against them. Not only are they your like cross-court rivals, right? They play in the same arena, but to have lost to them already twice in one season. One time the Clippers were not even at full strength because they didn't have Paul George. I believe that was the very first game of the season, right? Yeah. So if the Lakers would have lost this game, and in a sense they would have then lost the season series to the Clippers, I think that would have been a bigger punch than actually just losing this one. Like, this one game doesn't mean a whole lot. The Lakers are still in first place. The Clippers, I believe, are like 6 or 7 games behind the Lakers.
Yeah, they won't be
for the number one seed.
Lakers
so,
number one seed.
Right. So as far as seeding goes, it wasn't that big of a matchup. But just to mentally say, okay, we can actually beat this team on any given day, right?
Yeah.
When we are at full strength. And I think you bring up a great point as well. Both of these teams were at full strength. There was not anyone that did not play that has a significant meaning to these games. The one thing I will say, I think the Lakers went down from like a 9-man rotation to a 7-man rotation. So for whatever reason, Frank Vogel took this a little bit more like a playoff game and saying, okay, I'm only going to ride with my starters and 1 or 2 bench players, a very short leash, which is something that you normally don't see in the regular season.
Yeah.
Typically, the 7, 8-man rotations are reserved for the playoffs, and during the regular season, you will see a lot more guys playing just to keep guys fresh. But in this game, it was like, oh no, gloves are off. This is a playoff atmosphere. It's against your rival. Well, what some say is your rival.
Said it. See, you said it. There it is right there. There it is right there. You gave it away.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
Oh,
I'm going to play it on loop. I'm going to play it on loop.
Oh, man. No. See,
it's
I just contradicted myself. Damn it.
It's a rivalry in the sense that they're in the same city, too. So it's hard to say it's not.
From
I
that
get what
point.
you're saying. I get what you're trying to do. But it's just not true, Jared. It's not true.
So
it's
here's
a
the
big time matchup.
So both teams have to win in order for it to be a rivalry. And when I say win, I'm not talking about regular season games that mean jack. I'm talking about in the playoffs, in the postseason, winning and getting banners that get hung up in the arena. That's what I'm talking about. That is a rivalry. The Boston Celtics and the Lakers is a rivalry, right?
Yes.
The Chicago Bulls and the Detroit Pistons, that was a rivalry. You guys there were meaningful games being played between those two teams that were meant for championships, right?
Yes.
This Lakers and Clippers matchup was just a regular season game. Did not mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. Until these teams, and here's an interesting point that I didn't know: the Lakers and the Clippers have never met in the postseason.
No.
Which you would think in their entire history is pretty amazing that they've never played. It seems like this year all roads are leading to these teams finally meeting, but the fact that we're in 2020, the NBA has been around for 100 years? I mean, close to...
Well, I mean, both teams have been in Los Angeles since what? At least... Lakers came here in the 60s, correct?
Yes, from Minneapolis.
They came here in the 60s, and the Clippers were in the area, like in San Diego, in the 80s on.
Right.
So it is pretty long. It reminds me a lot of Ducks and Kings. The two hockey teams here didn't play in a playoff series until back in 2014. Shoot, it was the first time in, I think, the 20-year history of the two teams. Even though the playoff structure was set up for Western, like Pacific teams to play each other,
right.
It still was amazing that they hadn't played yet. So, that is interesting, and all good things take a long time to develop, and I guess this will be, hey, at least if you're going to do it, right, it's essentially going to be for a finals, because I think after what the Lakers did to the Bucks, and just overall what I think about the Bucks, I do think that if the Lakers and Clippers do play in the Western Conference Finals, which more than likely would happen, because I don't think the Clippers are getting 4th seed or 5th seed, so I think it's either one of the teams is going to get eliminated before the Western Conference Finals, or they're going to play each other. I do think that's essentially the NBA Finals matchup, in my opinion. Because some people could say the Bucks are great. I think the Bucks are a one-man team with another guy in Middleton that can somewhat take over a game. But, I mean, when you look at the Lakers, they have a guy like LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and then a third guy that can potentially take over like an Avery Bradley did this game, or like a Kyle Kuzma has in the past. I think the Milwaukee Bucks have one superstar and a guy that's kind of like Kyle Kuzma and Chris Middleton that's a little bit better. And yes, I am disrespecting Chris Middleton.
You picked
but
those are fighting words.
The way I don't know. I think Giannis still has kind of a young mindset when it comes to taking over the game. And a lot of times in these big games in the playoffs last year, in the game against the Lakers, which was their biggest game of the season, and I want to hear it, it was, he was not making the shots. He was missing free throws. He was taking terrible threes. And that's the sign of a guy that's not ready to take over the league yet. And that's why when we're talking about all this crown talk with LeBron, I think LeBron's still there. I think Kawhi's still there. And I think Kevin Durant and people like Steph Curry are still there more than Giannis is there at the top. But
you are outside of your mind right now.
Let's get back
outside of your mind.
Hey, not all the time can James Harden piss off Giannis, like we talked about on last podcast.
Outside of your mind. We will have to get back to that another
Okay.
Because I cannot believe you just said that about the Bucks.
Bucks are overrated. Book it right now. They're losing. They might even lose to the Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals. I do not like it. I'm telling you, Jerry. I have a feeling. I have a feeling Tom Brady's going back to the Patriots. I have the same feeling about the Bucks not winning the finals this year, not even being competitive. Okay, let's get back to this Clippers game.
Get back on track.
Because you're going to get so irritated. Okay, biggest thing in this game, can we not argue this? Avery Bradley for the Lakers. 24 points, 6 3-pointers, 9 for 17 on shots. You know, LeBron and AD combined for 58 points, 30 and 28, and you have Avery Bradley. This is exactly how the Lakers are going to win games in these big playoff games.
Right.
They need that third guy. A lot of people blame Kuzma for not being that third guy. Kuzma didn't do it this game because he didn't really need to. They had Avery Bradley, and Kuzma actually ended up with 10 rebounds as well in this game, only 8 points. But this is the only way I think the Lakers are going to beat the Clippers in any game for the rest of the season and in the playoffs. Because I do think the Clippers have so much depth that even when the Clippers got 31 points from Paul George, 27 points from Kawhi, and 20 points from Montrezl Harrell. That looks very similar to what the Lakers matchup was. The Clippers just didn't make the big shots near the end, specifically Kawhi. Marcus Morris was a piece of trash all game. 0 for 9, 0 for 7 in threes, 1 point. He even missed his second free throw, for God's sake. Okay? And so, there was a lot of things that went on for the Clippers that made them lose this game. But for the Lakers, because of how good LeBron is and for how much of an impact Anthony Davis has being a big man in the post that can shoot, having that third guy is a little bit more important than a lot of the rest of the teams in the league.
It is. And you can chalk it back up to when LeBron was in Miami and they had Chris Bosh as the third guy. It was LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, right? Chris Bosh was Batman. Chris Bosh was Robin. You go back to when LeBron was in Cleveland, and you can say it was Kevin Love that was the third guy, or J.R. Smith, right? LeBron needs shooters around him, and he needs other guys that he can trust. LeBron James, when he needs to, can basically take over a game, right? And in post-game, LeBron James was able to admit that coming into this weekend series against the Bucks, against the Clippers, two of the best teams in the league, his teammates said, "Hey, LeBron, we need you. We need you to step up and kind of take control." And LeBron said, "Okay, I got you guys." But on a night-in, night-out basis, I'm not so sure that LeBron James can do that every game. So you need Anthony Davis. You need games from Avery Bradley. I will say this from Kyle Kuzma. He gets a lot of criticism for not, scoring 15 to 20 points a night and being that scorer, because when you look at the stat sheet, the points is what everyone's eyes immediately go to. But like you mentioned, Kyle Kuzma had 10 rebounds. He had 2 or 3 offensive rebounds that led to more points, right?
Absolutely.
So he did the little things in the game that maybe sometimes don't get put on the stat sheet, but are very crucial and essential to your team winning. So I'm okay with Kyle Kuzma not always scoring in double digits, as long as he is doing the other little things, maybe getting rebounds or taking the load off LeBron James or Anthony Davis by guarding a Kawhi Leonard for certain periods of time. Kyle Kuzma is a lengthy dude, right? He can guard multiple positions. So like I said, continue to do the little things and you'll be able to find your way onto the court. Now, speaking of Avery Bradley, I don't expect Avery Bradley to make 6 3-pointers every game, right? That is not his strength. He's a great defensive player. He can usually guard the other team's best player. He's great at mid-range. So you give him the 15 to 18-foot jump shot, and that's where he is most comfortable, in my opinion. He was just on a heater in this game and was able to make 6 3-pointers because I think the Clippers were leaving him open, saying, "Hey, we dare you to shoot the ball, right? We're not going to let Green shoot. We're not going to let Kyle Kuzma shoot. We are going to force a guy who's not necessarily a 3-point shooter to beat us." And if they do that, then you know what? All they can do is say, "Good game," right?
True.
But in this sense, it was Avery Bradley, and then guess what? LeBron James and Anthony Davis both went off.
And here's the thing, we need to talk about this. And I look like a fool in this jersey today because of how poor this man played. But Lou Williams, not only offensively but defensively, was atrocious in this game. And one of the reasons, in the end, the Lakers ended up winning this game in the fourth quarter is because Lou Williams could just not cover Avery Bradley.
28 points. 28 minutes, and he only had 7 points.
That's what, you know what I'm saying? Like, and the thing, this what about the Clippers, right? You look at the Lakers, and we're talking about Avery Bradley. We can talk about the strategy of LeBron, taking advantage of Lou Williams and trying to get him, in a matchup, which is obviously, one of the best matchups you could have if you're LeBron, offensively and defensively. But when you look at the Lakers overall, they have LeBron James, Anthony Davis. We know those guys will more than likely step up in the playoffs, and they'll have around 60 points, like we just saw, maybe even more. But you need that third guy, and to be honest, I don't see another, more than likely you're going to have production from Bradley, Danny Green, or Kyle Kuzma, right? I wouldn't put a lot of points on Caldwell Pope having an amazing game because I just don't think he's done it enough in his career. So I put it on those 3 guys to kind of be that third guy. So if none of those guys do it, more than likely the Lakers are never going to win the game, right? They're going to lose almost every single game where one of those 3 guys doesn't play well, okay? With the Clippers, though, they had 3 guys play well, and they still weren't able to win. And the one thing about the Clippers and their roster is they have that 4th guy. They have the Marcus Morris that's supposed to do it. They have Lou Williams. That's why they have these guys. And those 2 guys, Marcus Morris and Lou Williams, did not do anything in this game. And so that's where I paid this. The Clippers need to take advantage of their depth and have these guys at least score like 15 points, or not one. Marcus Morris. Can we trade brothers, please?
Can I give you a guy? No, I'll take it. Can I give you a guy who didn't show up specifically in the fourth quarter?
Who is this?
That'd be Paul George. Paul George in the fourth quarter had 1 point.
Yeah.
So he scored 30 points in the first 3 quarters. He was going off. He had back-to-back threes in the third quarter to kind of start a rally for the Clippers. But in the fourth quarter, dude was non-existent from an offensive standpoint. I'm sorry, you can put up 31 points for an entire game, but in the fourth quarter, when it's a close game, right, even though the Lakers ended up winning by 9, it was a lot closer in the beginning of the fourth quarter, especially with 10 minutes to go, and your second best player on the team is basically non-existent on the scoreboard. That cannot happen. So yes, you can talk about Lou Williams and some of the other guys, Morris, but Paul George needs to step up when the game is on the line the most.
This is true.
Right? So I think we have to sit here and bring his name up and say, dude, yeah, you scored 31 for the entire game. That looks great. But when you break it down quarter by quarter in the fourth quarter, where were you?
Yeah, one of the reasons I think that happened is because Kawhi kind of got a little ball hoggy at the end, and he wasn't making good shots, and he wasn't even hitting like all his free throws. So I do think Kawhi has that sense. Kawhi is a better player than Paul George. Okay, we're not going to argue that. And I would rather have Kawhi with the ball at the end every single time than Paul George. But it did seem like Kawhi, maybe it was the sense he was playing LeBron. Maybe it was the sense that this is kind of his team and he chose to be on the Clippers rather than the Lakers. Let me try to win this game. Let me try to get it close, and then the other inferior guys can do their thing and make the big shot, when everybody's getting it. Right. I think that's more what happened to Paul George in the fourth quarter. I just think he didn't get enough of the ball. I think there was other guys. Montrezl Harrell has a sense to kind of try to take over a game. He didn't make big shots. He wasn't making big free throws. So I think there was a lot of things. I think what this means, though, is that these teams are extremely close. I still think the Clippers' depth, like I'm mentioning, they will in turn end up winning in the end, because I just don't see there being this many games
winning what?
Getting to the finals. I think they're going to get to the NBA Finals.
And win the NBA Finals?
I'm not going to say that because you just never know, like last season where you have a team like Toronto that clearly was inferior than the Golden State Warriors. Things could happen And I think Toronto is a very well-coached team. If they're able to get in, I'm not going to 100% say the Clippers are going to win. They should win, but I want to talk, especially after a grueling Lakers series, it's going to be tough, right? I did say I do think the winner of the NBA Finals is the winner of this series, but you get a healthy Toronto, a healthy Philadelphia. You never know. Those teams don't match up well sometimes with the Clippers, so we'll see. But I just think that in the end, the Clippers' depth, they're not going to have enough of these games where guys like Morris and Lou Williams combine for 8 points. I just don't think that happens on a regular basis.
You better hope not.
No, it would be completely shocking to me. But it's not going to happen, Jared.
I would love it. I can't wait.
Besides Lakers fans, everybody thinks the Clippers are the better team. That said it.
No, I've said that.
Yeah.
The Lakers are the.
No, you're one of the good fans that doesn't completely go, oh, the Lakers is obviously.
No. From a depth standpoint and even from an entire talent standpoint, yes, the Clippers have made a better roster. Now, the Lakers, as far as just star power, I would give that edge to the Lakers. But when you're looking at everything from even coaching, I think the Clippers have the better coach, and I think the Clippers have the better depth, especially coming off the bench. So yes, there are a lot of things that are pointing to the Clippers' way, right? The Clippers' favor. Problem is, the Lakers still have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and when they play the way they did on Sunday and on Friday, right? They say, hey, we still got it. Here's another interesting fact. I know we need to move on in a minute. The Clippers, I think one of the reasons why they are not sitting in the number 1 seed ahead of the Lakers right now is because they have gone with somewhat of the load management role with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. Now, they have had actual injuries, so it's not like they're just resting them for no reason. The Lakers haven't really done that this season. LeBron James in the last few weeks has had a growing injury, so he's missed a game or two here and there. But I think if the Clippers were to have played their starters for like the entire season, not have any load management, I think we would be looking at a race for that top spot between the Clippers and the Lakers. So it's to the Lakers' advantage that the Clippers have gone with that load management, and I think that has kind of forced them to lose a couple extra games in a sense. But in reality, the Clippers think that that's the best way for them to get into the playoffs and be healthy. The Lakers are saying, we want to get that number 1 seed and then maybe taper off like right before the playoffs start and be able to rest our guys then. So 2 different approaches. We'll see which one plays.
And that's one of the questions I want to ask you really quickly, and then we'll switch, is that, so you look at the Clippers, and like you admit, they're load managing. Doc Rivers has said it out loud before, okay? That it's not a surprise. They are resting guys in certain games. Paul George has been injured all year. There's been other guys that have had ailments to where, they're not able to play. The Clippers adding guys like Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris and now Joakim Noah the other day. They still have never really played together for an extended amount of time, and when they did, they were undefeated until they played the Lakers this Sunday. So I do think that the Clippers have 19 more games left. I think if guys can stay healthy and the load management isn't too crazy and it's only used really for the purposes of getting ready for the playoffs in the last week or so, maybe last 2 weeks, I think the Clippers, as a gelling team, could be 10 starters deep in some ways. And that is going to be extremely hard for any team to beat, regardless of if you have LeBron and AD, or even if the Warriors were still stacked with Kevin Durant. I still think this would be this is a team that could compete with some of the best teams of all time if they are healthy and they gel well and all the players get together. I know it's a high thing, but when you look at this roster and the collection of points per game and stuff like that, it is amazing that they're even able to lose a single game, to be honest.
I can't wait to go back and watch this because you have said some interesting things today, like competing with the best teams of all time. You're on one today.
Yeah,
you are. So when you put that Clippers jersey on, it must do something to you. It must give you super strength or the mindset to just blurt stuff out because. My friend, you are.
I'm wearing a Cal Berkeley sweatshirt under, so maybe that's.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. You are just completely on one today.
Yeah. Okay, but let's transition into something a lot more serious. Everybody knows about the coronavirus right now. It's strange that we're even talking about this on our podcast or any of the podcasts I do, period. But it's getting to an extent where, sports are going to be or already are being severely affected by this. 3 of the main things that have come out recently are that Italy has postponed all sports, period. No soccer, no basketball, nothing is going on in Italy, which is unprecedented. All 4 of the big sports, NBA, NHL, NBA, and the MLB. Actually, the NFL has not.
The NFL has not.
MLS. So the MLS, MLB, NHL, and NBA. I assume the NFL will if this continues. They've banned locker room access to anybody besides players and personnel of the team. And now we just heard this morning that the Ivy League basketball tournament has been canceled, and essentially the team that ended the season in number 1, which I don't know who that is, they are just moving on to the March Madness tournament, and they're not going to have...
For both men's and women's.
Yes, they're not going to have the 8-man tournament that would have determined who gets in a more fair way. That, unfortunately, because of the coronavirus, will not happen. So, Jared, your initial thoughts, is this going to get worse, or is this going to get better? Not the virus necessarily, but at least the reaction to the virus in the sports world. Do you think we're going to have NBA, NHL games, MLB games without fans? Do you think there's a chance that games start getting postponed? March Madness, stuff like this. What is going to happen, Jared, in your opinion?
Well, I do think it's going to get worse, but I think it's directly correlated to the fact that I think the coronavirus will just continue to spread, and until there is a vaccine that is created that can counteract this virus, I don't see this getting any better, right? And I think not only teams, but leagues as a whole have to take precaution, right? Regardless of if that means fans are banned from attending events. Here's the thing, right? Your teams are going to lose money, right? Leagues are going to lose money from this. And that is the last thing that they want. And the first step that they have done, like Nick just mentioned, is banning media, from basically from the team locker rooms, trying to limit the contact that they have between each other. Eventually, it is going to get to a point to where you're going to have to say, okay, fans are now banned, right? If you really think about it, whether you're going into a sporting event, doesn't matter if it's in an arena, in a football stadium, doesn't matter, right? How many times are fans grabbing the handle, right, or grabbing the chair, or going into the bathroom and maybe not washing your hands, or exchanging money between each other, right? Like, there's so many different ways of contact between one person and another, and when you have a bunch of people crowded into one event, that is only going to enhance that. And so I think what is going to happen, I don't know which league will have to be the guinea pig or the first league to do it, but I think there will be professional and collegiate games that will be played with no fans in the arena or in the stadium, and it is going to be very weird. It will be very awkward. We've had LeBron James, one of the most recognizable, if not the most recognizable superstar in all of sports, come out and say that he will not play if fans are not in the arena. And I think that was very shocking, in my opinion, for him to come out and say that. But I think that speaks volumes to where LeBron James and maybe some other players feel is that, hey, you're taking away a home court advantage or a home field advantage, right? The fans not only bring that passion for their home team, but they bring in energy. Even if you're the away team, some people feed off of that negative energy. So I think there's a lot of different levels to this. But like I said, at the end of the day, teams, organizations, leagues have to do what is in the best interest of their players, regardless of the money situation. And where I see things headed is that it is going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting too, because at least from what I've seen it described as, and I can be completely wrong, I saw one doctor's opinion on it, is that it is transmitted through liquid. Like, say you're talking to somebody, if we're talking to each other, and I accidentally spit, and it may go in.
Talk that way. Don't
100%. Yes, that's why we're looking at the camera today. But that's how it's transmitted, and that can obviously easily be, transmitted at a sports game. People are yelling. People are, they're drinking. That people necessarily aren't in their full senses. right? So it is very, like, you're right. You kind of don't see an end to this unless the government or some other major organization like the CDC comes out and says, okay, we found a cure, or we are recognizing that it is not as deadly as it is. Essentially, that's what's going to happen, or that's what's going to have to happen in order for, I think, these things not to occur. And I said it's going to suck. It's going to suck because I don't like watching sports with no fans. I don't even like being the only guy at, like, my brother's practices. It's boring. Okay, sports
I don't know if I've ever seen a sporting event, professional collegiate, where there were no fans.
The only one I can think of in the recent history was the Baltimore Orioles when the Baltimore riots were going on. They had one game where there was no fans,
right,
and it was very strange, although Baltimore a lot of times has no fans in their stadium anyway, so it wasn't the most shocking thing.
Yikes.
Look at that roster. All right, MLB preview coming up. You'll understand what I'm talking about. But all joking aside, that's the only one where it was kind of, and it was weird. I can't even imagine an NBA game without fans. And how boring is that going to be? You're going to see a dub and nobody's going to cheer. Nobody's going to go crazy. The only thing you're going to have...
You'll have the team, the guys on the bench cheering.
The team reaction is going to be the best thing.
Yeah.
Right?
And maybe, like, are the cheerleaders even there? Like, do you have the cheerleaders there?
Are they
the cheerleaders,
team personnel? Do they need to be?
Yeah,
there?
they're team.
But they're supposed to cheer on. They're supposed to do that for the crowd.
That's what I'm saying. They do that for the crowd.
I'm sorry, cheerleaders. I know cheerleaders in the business. You're not needed there. Okay.
Apparently not. I don't know. I thought about it and I was like, well, wait a minute.
You don't need the music guy. You don't need the defense guy, like the guy doing the chant. Like, There's a lot of people that don't. You really just need the scoreboard guy. You need the broadcasters. Definitely need the broadcasters. That maybe will save something. Maybe put Bill Walton on a Clippers broadcast. I'll watch it at that point. But yeah, it's going to be very strange. MLS, soccer's big with its fans, right? It would be very strange to watch a soccer game without fans, especially teams like LAFC and Atlanta. Atlanta United, who get amazing fan support. That would suck. March Madness without fans, it would be a little bit strange. I guess it would create more of a competitive balance in some ways, because you wouldn't have a traveling Kentucky or Duke fans coming to games against schools that they're going to destroy. But it's still going to be strange, and I hope that out of the blue it comes out that this thing is not as bad as we're all thinking it is, or the media is saying it is. And I just hope that this kind of comes to an end in the next month or two,
I hope it's not out of the blue, right? I hope that there's a vaccine that is created.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly.
I hope a cure happens quicker than most people think, because in reality, from what I've read, it takes at least or close to a year for a vaccine to actually be distributed and go out to the public.
Ramp up that process real quick.
Right, exactly. And when you think about it, right, you've got March Madness coming up. You've got the Major League Baseball season about to start. The NBA season is in full swing, close to the start of the playoffs. You have the NFL draft, which is in Las Vegas, right? Of course, it's in Las Vegas this year. The hub of all fun, right? And potentially you might not have fans for that event. So a lot of important things coming up in the sports world. And when we're talking about the coronavirus, we don't mean to compare this to sports, right? The coronavirus to sports, because at the end of the day, obviously the coronavirus is a lot more important than any sport, right? At any time. But we're just trying to give you people an idea of what leagues and what teams are trying to do to counteract this and continue their sport while also trying to be as safe and health conscious as possible.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing we can really do. We understand why these big leagues have to do this. It would be, to be honest, strange if they canceled the NFL draft ceremony, because, I mean, down the street you'd have a couple thousand people in a casino sitting next to each other and screaming and yelling and drinking. So I get it that you don't want to bring a pile of people into each other, but it's like, at that point, if people are already in Vegas in a casino, they're already getting sick. So screw it. Right? No, I'm just kidding. But It's just part of my frustration as a sports fan. I don't want to see these things ruined when there's other things going on like next to them. That's the exact same thing. I understand that leagues don't want to be responsible for multiple people getting sick. But, for example, I was out at the bars last weekend and it was absolutely packed and there were NFL players at the place I was. So it's not like, there's not people going out and partying every single weekend and not getting right next to each other and not. So it's going to be interesting.
Here's an interesting read right now. This is on ESPN.com. And this says that late Monday, so late last night, we are recording live on Tuesday. California's Santa Clara County announced a ban of all gatherings of at least 1,000 people for the rest of the month. So that would, in a sense, if we're talking about the sports world, that would affect the San Jose Sharks, and they have at least 3 home games for the rest of the month. So there could be 3 NHL games, at least for the San Jose Sharks, where they are playing without their fans in attendance.
That's insane.
Yeah. So, and like I said, I'm not surprised to see a county put this rule into effect. And I think, like I said, as long as this coronavirus continues to spread and continues to get worse, I think we will continue to see more teams being affected like this and potentially having to play without fans.
Technically, wouldn't a gathering of 1,000 people be like college, too?
Oh yeah, no. This is not.
I'm saying
specific
college.
To
period.
This isn't specific to like just sports in general. This is a gathering of 1,000 people anywhere. So if 1,000 people wanted to get together and gather at a park for a strike or something, that would be prohibited. Right? This is about anything. This isn't just about sports. I was just bringing it up from a sports context because we are a sports show.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's kind of unprecedented, at least in our lifetime. I haven't seen anything like this where we've seen we've heard a lot of Ebola. What was the other? We had mad cow disease. We had what was the one with the pigs a couple years ago? Swine flu. There's a lot of these that have gone around, but none of them have seemed to have the serious effects that this one has, which makes it,
And I think one of the biggest issues is the fact that there is no current vaccine for this.
Yeah, that's true.
There isn't necessarily a rule book, right, or a 1, 2, 3 step as to how to necessarily cure this, right, immediately. So, like many people are saying, if you are in good health and if you have the benefit of, being young, that there is a more than likely chance that you will be able to fight off this illness within a 2-week period. If you are, an elderly person, if you are in bad health, there are better chances that this disease can have a greater effect on you, resulting in potential death.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and we'll keep monitoring this because it will be major sports news if we start finding out that the entire league, is canceling fans being at games and stuff like that. So we'll be monitoring that. And
so I guess I lied in a sense. I'm also reading on ESPN.com that some NCAA Division III men's basketball games this past weekend were played without crowds because of concerns of the virus. At least one college hockey playoff series, it would be RPI and Harvard, which is going to take place in New York, will take place without fans. So apparently, in the lower levels of college athletics, we have already seen games happen without fans.
Yeah, we're in championship week for college basketball too. It's the last week before March Madness starts, and the Pac-12 championship starts soon. You're going to start seeing ACC, SEC. So yeah, it is interesting though that you see like the ones that the ones that make a lot of money. They're the least we're not going to do it yet.
And of course, because like I mentioned earlier, right, at the end of the day, these organizations are about making money. So they will do everything in their power to not have to do that, right? Yeah. So that's why Major League Baseball and the NBA and the NHL came out with the ban of the media personnel, right? That is just the first step. They're trying to see if that will, at least help with this process. If it does, then maybe they stick with that because they can then continue to let their fans in the doors. They can continue to make a profit and make money, right? But if this does not work, if banning media is not helping this cause, then you have to go to the next extreme and the next extreme, and eventually you get to the point where you're going to have to turn fans away.
Yeah, no, it's understandable too. I mean, it's already happening.
And then I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now, what about fans who have already bought tickets to these games, right? You buy tickets a month out, 2 months out. Do you get your money back? Do you get a refund? I'm just thinking as a fan right now, if I bought tickets to a Laker game in 2 weeks and it comes out within that period of time that the Lakers are, or the NBA as a whole is banning fans from coming to the game, right? Do you get your money back for that, or how does that work? I mean, there's so many different levels to this. Obviously, in the grand scheme of things, losing your money to a game is not as bad as having this coronavirus. It's just, but there are still a lot of levels and negative effects to if leagues do ban.
Yeah, I mean, we're going. I'm going to an event in May, professional wrestling event in Las Vegas. So we already paid for our tickets for that. So that would be very interesting if they, if they took it. It's going to affect a lot of people. I mean, people buying MLB tickets.
Right, getting ready for the season.
You
bought season tickets, or you bought,
I do think though, when you look at stuff a lot, I remember going to buy Dodgers playoff series, playoff game tickets a lot. If you were to say buy a Game 7 ticket for the World Series, obviously that's not guaranteed and it doesn't happen all the time. They do just give you your money back a lot, most of the time. It doesn't come back in the most timely manner, but they I have had that happen once where they just, so I assume in the same sense.
I would hope so.
Yeah, that StubHub would give you your money back or whatever site you watched it. Okay, so we do actually have a little bit of time. I wanted to ask, we were talking about this right before the podcast started. Kind of just a yes or no on this one, then we'll end the podcast. They just moved the franchise tag to franchise teams are able to franchise tag players on Monday now.
And this is the NFL that we're talking about.
Yeah, the NFL, excuse me. And so now, I believe, what day was it before this? This is moved.
So originally, the franchise tag deadline was going to be Thursday. And if teams did not franchise tag a player by Thursday, then that said player would become a free agent if their contract was up. Because of the collective bargaining agreement negotiations and the fact that the Players Association has moved their deadline to Saturday, the NFL then moved the franchise deadline to Monday. So they want to see if there will be a new collective bargaining agreement in place before the franchise tag deadline happens. That is, in a sense, a benefit to teams, especially the Dallas Cowboys, who are trying to get a long-term deal done with their quarterback, Dak Prescott. If they don't get a deal done with him, they will then have to franchise tag him.
Yep.
But I think both sides are hesitant right now to get a deal done because they want to see if there is a new collective bargaining agreement, what that language is going to look like, and what parameters they will be guided underneath. So because there's so much gray area right now, I think you have seen a lack of players kind of negotiate with teams, even though the new league year is not started and you technically cannot sign a new deal with a new team. You can still talk with other teams, just like the Cowboys are talking with Dak Prescott. So, a lot to kind of look forward to in a sense. But yes, the franchise tag deadline is now moved to Monday, and the CBA negotiations is moved to Saturday. So hopefully, the next time we have a podcast, we will have more clarity on what happened during those deadlines.
Yeah.
If or if not Dak Prescott was signed or franchise tag.
Yes, definitely two topics for next week, for sure, already there. But let me ask you this question. You are the resident Cowboys fan here. Do you think extension or franchise tag on Monday, regardless of the CBA vote?
Regardless of the CBA.
What do you think?
What do I think is going to
Because
happen?
we've heard a rumor of a contract offer.
The Dallas Cowboys have offered Dak Prescott and his representation 2 contracts. The ball is basically in Dak's court right now as to whether he wants to accept those contracts or wait until a potential new CBA deal is agreed upon and then see what that language looks like and what parameters they will be guided underneath. What I think will happen is that there won't be an agreement and that the Cowboys will have to franchise Dak Prescott because they will not let him walk on the street. He is their quarterback. He is their, hopefully, quarterback of the future, and they're not going to let him go. As a fan, what I want to see happen is for these two sides to put their damn egos aside and to come to a deal. Because if the Cowboys are able to come to a long-term agreement with Dak Prescott, they can then use that franchise tag on another player, a la Amari Cooper or a la Byron Jones, if they cannot get a deal done with those players, right? So it's tough because you obviously want to make sure that Dak Prescott is the number one guy on your list. So if you can't come to a deal with him, you have to franchise tag him, but that then kind of handcuffs you in your negotiations with the other players, right? Because if you have that franchise tag available, then you can still franchise tag Amari Cooper or Byron Jones. So, I would love to see a deal done between those teams, but the way that things have been going and the lack of communication from all the reports that we've heard is that there will be no deal by the time next week rolls around, and the Cowboys will have to franchise tag it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I was just looking at this too. You look at Dak Prescott, and the rumored contract was $33 million a year.
Right.
That would make him the 5th highest quarterback in the league, and he only would be, $2 million away from Russell Wilson, who's 35.
See, so I think a lot of people get caught up in looking at the big numbers. I get the $33 million, and I actually, in my heart of hearts, I think that Dak Prescott is more than okay with making $33 million a year. I think the problem is what's the other language in the contract? How much, over the length of his contract, whether it's 4 years, 5 years, what is the actual guaranteed money, right? Is it over $100 million? When is he getting paid that money? Is he getting paid the majority of that up front in his first 1 or 2 years of the contract? Or is it backloaded to where he's going to make the majority of that money later on in his career, right? So there are little things, little nuances in the contract that I feel are holding up these negotiations. It's not about the $33 million or the $34 million. I think it's about the bigger picture of, okay, when is Dak Prescott actually going to be getting this money, right? How is it going to be paid out? And if there is a new collective bargaining agreement, if there is a new TV contract that will bring like an excess of $5 billion.
Which it will, because the NFL is the biggest sport on
teams,
TV. Yeah.
Players like Dak Prescott want to say, okay, I want a piece of that money, right? So how am I going to be compensated for that? So I think there's a lot of little things that still need to be worked out, and it's not necessarily the $33 million that so many people are just enamored with. It's the language in the contract that I think has the Cowboys and Dak Prescott and his reputation so far off.
Yeah, but I'm looking at this too. I was wondering this. So the cost of the franchise tag will be $27 million. His rumored contract is $33. Somewhat big difference there because you're saving $6 million with the franchise tag, and that $6 million could go to somebody like Amari Cooper as part of obviously more money, or it could sign you another free agent, something like that, help with an extension with another player. So it does make a difference, and if you aren't sure of Dak Prescott as your quarterback, and let's say next year he doesn't lead them to the playoffs again, then maybe they go, okay, well now we have every other possible thing around a new quarterback, and they can just go in a different direction, maybe pay someone a little less, right? Or go through the draft. But I think Cowboys, enough of this, Dak Prescott is clearly better than guys like Kirk Cousins and others, okay? He's not one of these. I believe he's more. We have a comment from our resident boy Alex Silva that if it's safe to say on the podcast,
I will finish.
Okay. Cowboys Dak Prescott essentially. Stop this. Okay, we're talking about a couple $1 million here. Sign the guy long term. If he's atrocious for the next 2-3 years, maybe the guaranteed money isn't 100%, so that you can release him if he's that bad, right? And you deal with a buyout, but. He's a better quarterback than I'd say most of the league. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say he's top 5. Maybe not even top 10.
You just had a list of the top players up there. You said Russell Wilson, you had Carson Wentz, you had Jared Goff. Just on those 3 players right now, is Dak Prescott better than Jared Goff?
100%.
Is Dak Prescott better than Carson Wentz?
Debatable.
Okay. I know he's not better than Russell Wilson, so I'm not even going to pose that question. Or Aaron Rodgers.
Big Ben or Russell Wilson.
I think, no doubt, Dak Prescott is better than Jared Goff. And in my heart of hearts, I think
he's better than Matt Ryan.
He's better than Matt Ryan. He's better than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, okay, so potentially he's, top 5 quarterback, although Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson haven't been paid yet. So they're kind of looking at this contract list. He deserves to be a top 5 paid quarterback. I don't know if he's top 5, but I believe he's top 10.
That's what the quarterback market is set at right now, right? And that's what it is.
Patrick Mahomes is going to blow it out of the water, though, whenever he does.
Very quickly, because we do need to wrap up, going back to the coronavirus and what we were talking about with players losing money and all this stuff. We have Alex Silva, a friend of the show, who strongly disagrees with our opinion, or one of our opinions, saying that he would way rather get money back and have the coronavirus. He said, honestly, not scared of this bleeping virus.
Yeah.
You can probably, use your imagination.
I actually don't think you'll guess what he said. Just go look in the comments.
Yeah, just go
if
look
you
in the
watch the video live, just go look in the comments. I'm sure it came up while we were recording.
But listen, Alex is young. He's in good health. So more than likely, he would be able to beat this virus. And so would we. So I agree with you, Alex, but I guess I'm just talking about the majority here.
I will say this. I don't think this podcast is going anywhere. Jared and I are in good health. We're not going to quarantine ourselves. As far as my other podcast goes, our Virginia man, I don't know. You never know. You don't know how his immune system is.
Once again, Nick is just on one today.
We have other members of the podcast.
What it is, dude. I don't know if it's the hat, if it's the Clippers jersey.
You know what it is? I haven't had my coffee.
I was going to say, Nick normally comes with his coffee, and he didn't today.
I didn't have time.
I'm going to make sure that you bring your coffee before next show.
Next show, I will not be wearing my Clippers jersey. I will not be wearing. I won't wear my Dodgers hat, and I will bring my coffee, and we'll see how it is next week. I do believe I brought the entertainment today, so.
You did.
You
did for sure.
Okay, so that's it for this podcast. We actually got a whole other segment in there that we didn't even think we'd talk about. Next week, we'll update you on the NFL news for sure. We'll probably talk a little bit about March Madness as well. That's it for this podcast. I'm Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith.
And we'll see you next week on the Cover 2 podcast.
See you guys.
See you guys.